Welcome to SportsBeat KC, presented by Big O Tires. It's Friday, December 27th, and I'm your host, Blair Kirchhoff. 'Tis the season for bowl games, and Kansas State's Liberty Bowl game with Navy approaches. Beat writer Kellis Robinett is here to discuss the challenges the Wildcats face when taking on the nation's best triple-option team that leads college football in rushing. We also chat about former Kansas State star running back Darren Sproles, who announced his retirement from the NFL last week. After a break, we hear from Patrick Mahomes, who right out of the gate explains why the Chiefs won't be holding back Sunday in the regular season finale against the Chargers, and he provides some insight about his first big pass of last week's game at Chicago, that completion to Sammy Watkins. But first, here's Bowl Talk with Kellis Robinett, who's on his way to Memphis to cover the game on New Year's Eve. Kellis, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Blair. How about you?
Doing all right. Doing great. Great to catch up with you. And you have got a big football game to cover next week, and the Wildcats taking on Navy in the Liberty Bowl. It's a interesting matchup for a few reasons. From a K-State perspective, playing against a triple option team, that poses a unique challenge to anybody. How prepared is Kansas State going to be playing against an offense they never see?
Yeah, well, that's the million-dollar question right now. Chris Klieman talked about it a little at his signing day press conference and said that it's so complicated it's actually kept him up at night because he's actually faced the option before when he was at North Dakota State coaching against other FCS teams. He saw it occasionally, particularly most with Georgia Southern, who I believe was coached by Jeff Monk and Army's coach at the time, and I think Jerick McKinnon, who's now running back in the NFL, was their option quarterback. And he said that Malcolm Perry, Navy's quarterback, is better than he was. So, he's very impressed. If you watch him play Army, he had 300-plus yards on the ground. Navy won really comfortably, just turned the ball out on the ground against him. So it's a challenge, but the flip side of it is as complicated as it is to defend the triple option offense, Kansas State gets 3 whole weeks to prepare for it. And it's not like Navy's going to throw anything else at them. So, while, yeah, it's difficult to go from pass-happy offenses in the Big 12 to this, which is a complete opposite end of the spectrum kind of style, they will get 3 solid weeks prepping for it. So, if there's ever a time to play a triple option offense, this is probably the time to do it.
I wonder who will play Malcolm Perry on the scout team for K-State.
That's a great question.
Or who has been playing, I should say, because that's the thing.
They actually said that was the hardest thing to do, was teaching the scout team offense how to run it, because they had no idea.
No. It's all timing, and it's really interesting to watch. There's deception, obviously. Triple option offense is about deception, but at least 90% of the time they're keeping it on the ground. They're going to run. It's just picking out who the ball carrier is.
Right.
And with Malcolm Perry, the quarterback, the guy puts up crazy numbers. I think, like you said, 300 yards plus rushing against Army. Navy leads the nation in rushing this year, 370 yards per game.
6.1 yards per attempt, which I believe is also tops in the nation.
That's a healthy number.
Yeah, and Kansas State's defense was on a per attempt basis the worst in the Big 12 this season, allowing I believe 4.9 yards per rush. So not the greatest thing for them to see, but at the same time, like I said, they do get a whole month to prepare for it. So maybe they shore some things up.
I think one of the neat aspects about this game is neither team was in a bowl game last year. Kansas State, was 5-7 in Bill Snyder's last year. They rallied to an 8-4 regular season. Navy made an even greater turnaround. I think there were 3. They had 3 wins last year.
3 wins, yeah, bottomed out.
And to turn that into a 10-2 this season is phenomenal. Their losses were to Memphis, at Memphis, and Memphis is playing. They
were great.
Yeah, is playing in the Cotton Bowl tomorrow against Penn State as the champion of the American Conference, and then Notre Dame kind of kicked them pretty good. So I wonder if there's to see Navy lose to a quality team in Notre Dame would give Kansas State fans some optimism that a good team can beat a, for lack of a better word, a little bit of a gimmicky team.
Right, and it's probably cliche to say, but this is definitely a game where a good start matters a whole lot for both teams, because if Navy gets out in front, say like 14-0, something like that, that's going to be hard to fight back from. But flip side, if Kansas State gets a double-digit lead early, then Navy all of a sudden has to start thinking about throwing the ball and that's not their forte at all. So, yeah, first team to 10 points might win. First quarter will be really important. And, yeah, I mean, there are a lot of instances on both sides. Like, you go back and watch what Army did to Houston last year in their bowl game and put up 70-plus points or whatever it was on Houston. And if you can't defend it, they can break a lot of long gains against you. But at the same time, if you do get it down, and, I mean, if you stop them one time, that's a pretty significant stop.
Right.
I imagine there will be fewer possessions than normal in this game just because both teams really do like to run the ball.
Right. Let's talk about Kansas State and the season that they've had for a moment. A season that kind of went in spurts, didn't it?
It did.
They got off to a nice start, had a little stumble at the beginning of Big 12 play, rallied from that, stumbled a little bit more, rallied from that.
Came on back.
Right. All in all, when Kansas State was playing well this year, what was going right for them?
Well, I mean, it was typical Chris Klieman football. They didn't turn the ball over. They ran the ball. They controlled the pace of the game, and then they did a lot of good things on defense. It's like you said, they followed a really strict pattern: 3 wins, 2 losses, 3 wins, 2 losses. Now, if they keep it going and they beat Navy, it'll be another 3 wins. So it'll be a roller coaster 9-4 season, but it would match their best one in quite a while at Kansas State. So have the potential to have a really good year. But yeah, when they were at their best, their running backs were healthy, and Skylar Thompson was able to be a true dual threat guy, running a little bit, throwing a little bit. And I think that was the key. When they asked Skylar to, win games with his arm, it was tough. But when he could manage things and surprise teams with his arm a little bit, and they did have a balanced offense, they were really good, and that's what you saw like when they beat Oklahoma. Everything clicked. They scored on 8 straight possessions, had a really big lead, and had one of their biggest wins in a long time. And then other games like Oklahoma State, they didn't have that working.
Right.
It was one of their worst losses. So
I imagine the Navy equivalent of the podcast that we're doing, they're talking about Skylar Thompson and the threat that he poses, as we've talked about Malcolm Perry. Skylar Thompson, there were times this year I thought he was playing as well as any quarterback in the Big 12, and then he would, and I wouldn't say disappear, but then things would get difficult for him. It seems to me that when Kansas State's at its best, he's controlling the game with his arm and his legs.
Yeah, and I mean, you look back at, I believe it was over during non-conference play, I believe Pro Football Focus had him as the top-graded quarterback in all of college football, even more than Joe Burrows, Jalen Hurts. His statistics weren't the same, but he didn't throw nearly as much, so he didn't have the opportunities. But you could tell when they really established the ground game and did what they wanted to do and only kind of sprinkled him in as a passer more than actually relying on him to throw the ball, he did a lot of really good things. And he did, good things in other games too, but you could tell when he brings his A game, I mean, much like you saw at North Dakota State when Easton Stick and Carson Wentz played their best games, that's when they won the most.
For sure. Hey, Kansas State is outside the top 25 right now, I believe, right? They're not
they're receiving votes.
Yeah, and
just
one of the
outside.
maybe the first team or one of the first teams out. I think a victory in this game probably gets them into the top 25. Is that significant?
I think it is. It's been a while since Kansas State has finished the season in the top 25. I think it was maybe 2014 or 2015 when Jake Waters was quarterback.
Gosh, it's been that
probably
long.
The last time. Yeah, the last time they went 9-4, they had a really slow start and they were right on the edge. They beat Texas A&M in the Texas Bowl and were maybe the unofficial 27 or 28 team at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
But so you look at that. Is there a big difference between 27 and say 24? No, not really. But it gets you more notoriety. I think it helps the following season when media and coaches make their preseason polls because they look and say, oh, this team was ranked at the end of last year. They're probably going to be good next year, so let's not vote them 9th. Let's vote them 4th or whatever.
Right.
So I think it helps, and all the coaches get a little bonus if they finish in the top 25. So it'll be good all around, and it'd be another nice feather in the cap for Chris Klieman because coming into the season, their over-under in Vegas was only 5.5. I think most people would have just said, get us 6 wins, let's get back to a bowl, and then see where things go from there. To get to 9 wins and be ranked at the end of the season would be a very, very encouraging start.
Beat writers do not get a bonus, I believe. Is that
not based on the team performance, unfortunately.
Hey, so it was signing day recently, and I noticed that Kansas State, at least in some of the rankings, came in a little higher than I usually see Kansas State. Second recruiting class for first full recruiting class for Chris Klieman. Look, everybody celebrates the recruiting class. You can have the bottom rated recruiting class, and it would be celebrated by that school. But what was the reason for the high ranking that I saw? I guess I saw one in the low 40s.
Right. There were, at one point, one of the rankings even had them as high as 39. I don't know if that stuck all the way through signing day. I think they did drop down to the 40s. But at one point, they had a top 40 recruiting class, which has not been done in over 10 years at Kansas State. So that obviously fluctuated a little bit by the time other schools catch up. Kansas State was heavy with their early signings, having 23. So I don't necessarily know that they'll stay there. I think they'll probably end up right at about 50. But, I mean, for Kansas State, that's better than what it's been. I'm just impressed that they were able to get so many players early, because that was always a struggle with the previous regime. They do a nice job recruiting up until the season hit, and then they didn't really typically get anybody else until February. And even then, they were still adding guys in the summer. It seemed like recruiting was never over. And I think that's why they had some depth issues, because they were, they weren't going with the guys at the top of their board. They were going with guys they were just finding on the street and putting in there. And sometimes they worked out. There were guys like Trey Deshawn, who ended up starting for 4 years, who came out of nowhere. Nobody thought he was a D1 guy, and he turned out to be. So it can happen, but you don't want to be relying on that. I think typically the earlier you can sign a guy, the better chance he has of being good overall in college. And they've done that. They hit on a lot of guys that they liked early. I personally like Will Howard, a quarterback out of Pennsylvania, an area that I can't really recall they've ever recruited before, but they got one of their best quarterbacks in that region to come down and play for them. I like Chris Vaughn, a short little Darren Sproles type running back out of Texas. Had a high school game recently where he had something like 500 yards of total offense. I mean, I'll take that. He's only 5'7", but shoot, I'll take that. And there were a lot of guys in this class who chose Kansas State over other Power 5 schools. Nothing like picking them over Oklahoma or Texas, but there were a lot of times where UCLA was in on a guy and they couldn't sway him, or West Virginia, TCU were in there, and Kansas State won the battle, and that's been hard for him at times. And now with this current coaching staff, they're winning more of those. And I think overall, even though you're still not seeing for them 5-star guys, I think overall the talent has improved on the recruiting trail. You
mentioned Darren Sproles just a minute ago. Last week, he announced his retirement from the NFL.
How about that?
How about that? 15 years in the NFL after a great career at Kansas State, where he was the career rushing leader, single-season rushing leader. Of course, was an Olathe North Star, Simone Award winner.
I'll always remember his game against Oklahoma at the Big 12 championship game. Some of those runs, game. Unbelievable.
He didn't get in the end zone rushing. He did catch an L. Roberson pass and took it in. He had 88 yards receiving that day, but he had 235 rushing yards against top-ranked Oklahoma in that game. I remember covering that game, and the atmosphere was incredible. It really was for a college football game. I don't know if there was an anticipation of the upset. Oklahoma actually scored first in that game, and then K-State ran off 35 straight points and beat the bejesus out of Oklahoma. It really was a great...
Which nobody really saw coming. I mean, I remember before that game, the talk was Oklahoma was the greatest team ever.
Greatest team in college football history. In fact, their credentials were such that even losing that game, they played in the college football championship game and lost to LSU in the national championship game. So I'm sure he'll get, and he has been honored as a player like him can be. The question will be whether he's an NFL Hall of Famer. I think he's kind of a borderline call on that, but great career for Darren Sproles.
You think he can make it in?
I think it'd be tough. He's fifth all-time in all-purpose yards, and among those ahead of him are Jerry Rice, Walter Payton, Emmitt Smith, but also Bobby Mitchell is ahead of him, and Bobby Mitchell's not in the Hall of Fame. The three others are. Tim Brown is right behind him on that list, is in the Hall of Fame. But a lot of these guys picked up their all-purpose yards rushing and receiving. Darren Sproles did his as a return guy. Can a Hall of Fame return guy get into the NFL Hall of Fame? That's the question.
It's an interesting debate. I can see it both ways. I mean, for a guy of his stature to play this long in the NFL and put up those stats is really incredible. But you're right. He is a little,
It's going to be someone's going to have to make a strong case for him in the meeting. That happens every Super Bowl. The Hall of Fame committee gets together.
Need some K-State alums on that
right.
on that committee.
That's right.
Look at him, man.
I'll tell you what, the dude was 5'6", and I remember when he was playing Pee Wee football in Olathe and how he was dominating that. He was like the talk of the area. This little dynamite, undersized kid was just dominating the youth league in Johnson County. So, hey, congratulations to Darren Sproles for an incredible football career, not just NFL career, but football career. And Kellis Robinett, thank you for stopping by, and have fun in Memphis. That can occur. I know I've done it. So have a good time in Memphis and covering Kansas State Navy in the Liberty Bowl, and we'll talk some more K-State football and basketball next week.
All right, I'll be walking on Beale Street thinking of you.
There you go.
If your tires are so old, they literally remember the Alamo. That's a big O no. Thankfully, for all your car's big O no's, there's always a big O yes. Now through December 31st at participating Big O tires, save $70 instantly on sets of 4 Continental, Cooper, Goodyear, or Yokohama brand tires with paid installation purchase. Not valid with other offers. Disposal fees extra and up to 10% shop fee based on non-discounted regular retail price not to exceed $35 where permitted. See store for details.
Hey, it's Blair. Hey, we have a special subscription offer for SportsBeat KC listeners. Unlimited digital access to the Kansas City Star's award-winning sports coverage. Sign up now for 1 year of Sports Pass for access to all the sports news, features, and columns we have to offer. And it's only $30. That's a 40% savings off our regular rate. For your convenience, your subscription will automatically renew after the initial term at $50 unless you tell us to cancel. A lot of subscription services won't tell you that. They'll just sneak it on there. We just told you. Your subscription helps support the sports coverage of kansascity.com and the Kansas City Star. Please visit kansascity.com/SportsBeatKC offer to get this special offer. And as always, thanks for listening.
You guys have some seeding stuff to go. Playing the starters, playing to win. That's the message for you guys this week?
Yeah, I mean, we're still building. I think that's the biggest thing. I know we're at the end of the season, but I feel like every single week you can see this team's getting better. And we want to have that momentum of going out there and playing our best football going into the playoffs. And so we understand that the Chargers are a really good football team, and we know it's going to be a great challenge. So we're going to come in with the mindset that we've had these last few weeks of playing our best football.
The seeding stuff, I mean, will you keep any eye at all on what's happening with New England? Pay attention during the game?
I won't be, other than maybe if they do like the score updates on the scoreboard, and you kind of have to. But I want to have that mindset that I've had these last few weeks of just playing the football the best way that I can, and really helping our team and our offense grow every single week. And whatever happens there, it happens. But we know we have that mindset of a week by week, day by day of being the best people that we can be.
Pat, can you compare where you guys are as an offense and as a team at this point to where you were at this point last year?
Yeah, I feel like as a team, obviously, I feel like we're playing really good football right now, offense, defense, and special teams. And as an offense, I feel like we're kind of hitting our stride here as we get to the playoffs. Where last year we were kind of hot throughout the middle, and as the season kind of got ended, we kind of were fluctuating a little bit. I feel like we're really building right now at the end of this season.
How do you see that momentum building offensively? What are you looking at that tells you that?
Yeah, I think that we're able to really do a different variety of things. We're hitting our shot plays, but if you look at this last game, it was moving the ball down the field a different way than we usually do. And I feel like that as an offense, we're able to do different things this year that we weren't last year, and that's going to really help us out going into the playoffs.
You guys haven't scored as many points recently as you did last year, but you haven't needed to. Mm-hmm. You feel like if you get into a game where you guys need a big score, you guys are still capable of doing that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we got the opportunity. We've gotten and shown before that we're able to put up points if we need to. But if the defense is playing like it's been these last few weeks, we're going to keep doing what we've been doing and putting up enough points, and then finding a way to get a win in the end.
Pat, if you look at statistics, even dating back to maybe like your high school days, it's been a long time since you've ever really had a solid defense. How much fun are you having that now on the other side of the ball you're getting some of that support?
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. I mean, first off, just to see those guys who've put in the work succeed on that side of the ball. I mean, I've seen them every single day going through these extra walkthroughs and meeting with each other, meeting with the coaches and doing whatever they need to do in order to play like they've been playing of late. And then with me and the offense, we understand that if we can go out there and put up some points, that they're going to hold the lead for us and we're going to find a way to get a win.
Damian Williams last season came along at the end of the season. Of course, he came on late, but then he really progressed toward the end. Philly's going to be ready for that stretch run now that he's healthy and getting ready to get to the postseason run?
Yeah, I think, if you look through this season, the fact that we've been able to use all these different running backs, that's going to really help us out going into the playoffs. I mean, a lot of these guys have gotten opportunities, shown that they can make plays happen, and we'll be able to use them in different variety of ways as we kind of make this stretch run.
With a 5-game win streak, Patrick, a number of guys have said it really began shortly after the loss to Tennessee. Mm-hmm. Just what do you remember about that exchange and what it was like that work week leading up to the next game that sort of allowed this win streak to sort of begin?
I think the biggest thing was just the amount of focus that we kind of got after that game. I mean, if you look at the Tennessee game, we felt like we could have won that game, but we kind of lost focus there at the end of the game as offense, as a defense, and as special teams. And so I think you saw a greater attention to detail from each and every person in this locker room of what they have to do each and every week in order to put the team in the best shape to win.
Patrick, there was the play in the first drive where you hit Sammy Watkins over the middle. You threw that ball particularly hard. I'm wondering if you realized when you released it how hard you threw it, and if you're surprised that you catch the ball.
No, I knew I was trying to fit. I knew I'd try to fit it in and throw it, so I knew I had to kind of rip it because the guy was behind him. But the catch was spectacular. I mean, the way he was able to catch that ball, running with all that momentum across the field, and it was a little behind. I thought it was going to be potentially intercepted, and he was able to just reach back and make a catch on that. And it really was a big play in the game to kind of get that first drive going, and then we found a way to score and kind of got the momentum in our favor.
Have you seen the video after your touchdown when you were counting on your fingers, and have you seen all the upboards caused on national television?
I've seen the video, and I mean I've seen people talk about it, but for me it's just going out there and playing football and loving it while you're doing it.
But you did it for a reason.
Not necessarily a reason, just kind of enjoying it out there.
When you guys have plays, there's some stats out there, 3rd and 15, 3rd and 18, whatever. I mean, your numbers are really good doing that. Where does it come from? Is it attitude? Is it the coach believes that 3rd and 18 is not a problem? You can go ahead and try to get a first down. Don't check it down. Where does that come from? Is it more you, more him, more the guys around you to just say, let's go get a first down, not give up?
I mean, first, I think coach preparing us for those situations. I mean, we have times in training camp where it's just 3rd and long, where we're 3rd and 11 plus, and we're working against the defense, knowing that they're in the more of the prime position that they want to be in to try to get stops. But he's putting us in those situations so that we're prepared to either hit the first down or check it down and find a way to try to knife through and get the first down. And then I think it goes with a lot of trust between teammates. I mean, when you have a 3rd and long like that, the offensive line has to do their job of protecting and for a long time, and then the receivers have to do their job of getting open, and then they have to trust that I'm going to put the ball out on time and still give them chances to make plays. And I think just first preparing that way and then trusting each other has given us the opportunities to make some of these 3rd and longs happen.
Do you feel that, Pat, you're more prepared for what the defense is doing in all these situations than maybe there's less surprise for you on those downs than maybe on a regular down and distance situation?
Yeah, I think just in general, I'm more prepared just because more experience that I've had this year and going into last year. I've really tried to use all that experience to prepare myself. I mean, there's still times where I feel like the defense gets me, but that happens. I mean, there are great defensive players over there and great coaches on that side of the ball too. But whenever I get an unscouted look, I'm able to kind of fall back on stuff that I've done now in my short career, and hopefully we'll keep building that memory bank as I go.
When was the last time you felt like the defense got you? Was there anything you could point to in the Chicago game, for instance?
Yeah, the Chicago game, they hit me with a blitz where they dropped kind of both their ends, and they brought both a dime 26 Bush on this side, and then they brought the nickel number 24 on the other side, and they got me with my protection call, and so I kind of was hot, and I kind of just threw one in the middle of nowhere, and because they had gotten me, which I probably shouldn't have done, but there's still times every game where they get you because, I mean, defenses, they're scouting us just like we're scouting them.
I think it was week 13 when you said you felt the healthiest you've been since week 1. Unique year where it seems like you're getting a little stronger each week. Do you feel that sensation where you're feeling, with all the injuries, a little bit more comfortable every single week?
Yeah, I think so. Each and every week, I'm able to kind of still go through the rehab and the treatment process and just prepare my body. And I feel like this year I've learned that is even if I am feeling 100%, I still want to go in there and take care of my body. Whereas last year I might have just got out of here whenever I was done with my film study. I've really spent more time in the training room just preparing my body, just knowing that I need to be the best shape possible going into the playoffs.
They want you to do that, or did you seek that out and say, okay, I'm going to almost do prehab here?
Yeah, as I was kind of in the training room early with the ankle injury that I've kind of realized that I just want to keep taking care of my body in that way. And I thought I was before that, but just this year I've really understood that I can take care of my body even better.
Couple more guys.
With so many guys that I've talked to, Patrick, to say that it's a joy to watch you guys on offense play, particularly the defensive guys, whenever they get a chance after maybe adjustments on the sideline. Do you find yourself doing that more this year, or even of late, watching the defense sort of operate from your vantage point on the bench, or are you taking time during your normal film session to sort of see what the defense does in the All-22?
I don't know if I do during my film session, but I do watch them during the game, and I understand some of the stuff they did just from training camp, and obviously they've built to their repertoire and everything like that. But it's cool to see the passion and the fire that those guys are playing with. I mean, you can see it from Tyrann, Frank, whoever it is, Hitch, or whoever it is on that defense. They're playing fast. They're playing with a lot of confidence, and they're playing really good football right now.
Hey, Patrick, the quarterback fraternity around the NFL seems pretty tight, and specifically Phillip Rivers. What do you remember the most about your first interaction with him, and how would you describe your relationship with him?
Yeah, he's a great competitor. I mean, he's someone who loves the game of football. He's going to compete to the very end every single game, and he's had a lot of success doing that. And he's a great person from all my interactions with him. I mean, he's a great dude, but he's a fiery and he's a good competitor.
Okay, thanks guys.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Links to the stories about Kansas State and the Chiefs can be found in the show notes and on kansascity.com. Thanks to producers Randy Mason and Derek Donovan for piecing together today's show. And that'll do it for another week of SportsBeat KC presented by Big O Tires. We'll be back on Monday to break down the Chiefs-Chargers game and to look ahead at the Chiefs' playoff situation. Thanks for listening.